How your family doing, Scary Mary? You got your hands full, Mr. Boatwright Boom, drowning out Miles Davis coming from the tape deck. Well, that woman of mine going to force me into the poorhouse. That hard headed boy of mine is driving me crazy. He and his sister fight like a cat and dog. That's why we shipped her to her auntie this summer. How your mama? I hear she's having some health difficulties, Mr. Boatwright grunted, looking with envy at the Undertaker's well-groomed hair. Well, Alzheimer's is pretty serious, but we managed to live with it. She's a handful, though. We can't keep a nurse more than a few weeks. That's why I let that crazy half brother of mine move in so he can help look after her. And as you probably heard, my wife is not well, or at least she doesn't think she is. Every other day, I drop off a new prescription. Well, I be seeing your wife in the yard wrestling with them rose bushes y'all got and coming and going with shopping bags from every store in town every day. She look mighty healthy to me, Mr. Boatwright said, seriously, still staring at the Undertaker's hair, blinking fast and hard. She cut her finger on a steak knife the other day, and I took her to bed, certain she was going to get infected. Today it's a cramp in her foot, Mr. Nelson laughed. I sat in silence while Mr. Boatwright and Mr. Nelson talked. As soon as we got home, Mr. Boatwright started bad mouthing Mr. Nelson. We don't eat pork, he mimicked. I bet he'd eat pork if and he didn't have nothing else to eat. And what he need with a car that big? If and I had a wife like his and always whining about a cut or a scratch or cramps, I'd slap her. Mr. Nelson seems like a real nice man, I said casually. We were putting the meat away. I kept the pork links out so that I could eat a snack before dinner. He doesn't look like an undertaker, I added thoughtfully. And just what is an undertaker supposed to look like? Mr. Boatwright sniffed, shaking a pack of chicken wings in my direction, his other hand on his hip. Well, grim, heavyset, spooky. The way I covered my mouth with my hand. Mr. Boatwright looked at me like he wanted to slap me, but he didn't. I bet he ain't half the man I am, if you knew what I mean. I don't know what you mean. Scary Mary said he got a balled up sock stuffed in his crotch. Mr. Boatwright laughed. And she should know, I said sarcastically. He lifted one of the links, shook it at me, and grinned. You won't find no balled up sock in my shorts. I pretended not to hear him. Hurry up and eat your links, then I'll give you the real thing. Mama will be home soon, I snapped, slamming the refrigerator door so hard it shook. Not tonight. The judge giving his poker party tonight. We got plenty of time to have a good time. You mean you mean have a good time, I thought. Before I could finish my sentence, Mr. Boatwright slid his knuckles along the side of my face. You sassing me over a little poontang? I'm not sassing you. I'm sick of doing what we doing. It's not right. Why can't you get a girlfriend your own age? Somebody who wants to do it with you. Mr. Boatwright looked confused. He leaned back on his legs and put his hands in his hips. Like I said, I could get any woman I want. Then why don't you? I had lost my appetite. I wrapped up the links back up in the package and put it in the refrigerator. A long, uncomfortable moment of silence passed. I could make your life a living hell, girl. You already have, I assured him. Mr. Boatwright gave me one of the meanest looks. One of one that looks took so much effort, his nostrils started flaring. I remember that the next time you need money for the movies or books or something. With that, he hobbled out of the kitchen and went into the living room. I went to my room and lay down on my bed, proud that I had stood up to him. I just had to do it more often. Minutes later, he entered my room. What do you want? I barked. You can't tease me like you've been doing all day and get away with it, he said hoarsely. He rushed over to the bed and grabbed my arms and pinned them behind me. Come on now, girl. This ain't going to take but a minute. Look on the bright side. That was the bright side. It took only a minute to satisfy him. As long as he was happy, he was good to me, and being alone with him so much, that was important. On one side of our house was an empty lot. On the other side lived a widower named Caleb Davis and his 13-year-old son, Jerry. Caleb was a barber, and he had a shop in his house. I'm going to stop there, and I'll pick back up shortly.